So today I will explain the basic concepts of arithmetic sequence. I'm sure you know that what is an arithmetic sequence. Arithmetic sequence is a sequence in which next term minus previous term differ by a constant number. So suppose I say u2 minus u1 is d, which is a constant value, and u3 minus u2 is also d, and u4 minus u3 is also d, then such a sequence represents an arithmetic sequence. Also, if I try to find u3 minus u1, then that gives me 2d, and u4 minus u1, that will give me 3d. And if I try to see that what is u3 in terms of u1 and d, then what I get is u3 is u1 plus 2d, u4 is u1 plus 3d, and here also from here u2 is u1 plus d. Now if I try to see the coefficient of d, then the coefficient of d is nothing but is the difference of these two numbers, right? In the last one is 4 minus 1 3, in the second last one is 3 minus 1 2, and in the first one is 2 minus 1, that is 1, right? So we can create the formula for the general term. General term means an expression that is written in terms of n, and n is the term, the general term, or we can say the nth term, right? I'll try to explain that this formula has how many variables? This formula has 4 variables, namely un, u1, n, and d. Now one simple kind of question which can be asked is that you can be given the value of 3 variables and you will be asked to calculate the value of the 4th variable, right? If the question is little bit challenging, then you may be given the value of 2 variables out of 4 variables, and you may be asked to calculate the rest of the 2 variables. For example, you can be asked find the first term and common difference of an arithmetic sequence in which, let us say, 31st term is 10 and let us say 16th term is 55. Now because we know the formula for general term, so if I replace n by 31 in the above formula, what I'll get is u1 plus 30d as 10, and if I replace n by 16 in the other formula, I will get u1 plus 15d as 55. Now I got 2 linear equations and there are 2 variables. There's so many different ways of solving 2 linear equations in 2 variables, and one of them is eliminating the variable. I can see that the coefficient of u1 is same, which is 1 1, so I can use vertical subtraction. If I subtract the 2 equations, then what I get is 15d is minus 45, and that gives me the value of d as minus 3. And once I know the value of d, I can replace this value of d in any of the 2 equations. Suppose I replace it in first equation, then my value of u1 is 100. So what happened actually? We were given 2 values. So basically we had to convert those 2 values into 2 equations and then calculate the unknown variables, right? Next type of question which is usually asked is related to inequalities. Like a situation is created where terms of an arithmetic sequence represent an inequality. For example, you may be asked find the first term, or we can say find the first negative term of an arithmetic sequence which is represented like 100, 97, 94, like this, right? So this is an arithmetic sequence and we have to find the first negative term. So usually students get confused. I'm given first term, then why am I asked first negative term again? So basically you can see that the terms of this sequence are decreasing, because what is d? d is nothing but it's 97 minus 100, that is minus 3, which is negative. So what will happen? a time will come when the terms will start becoming negative. So basically he is asking us to find the first negative term, right? So first of all we need to see at what position that negative term will occur. So basically we need to find n. So how to start this question? I'll say, okay, let nth term be the first negative term, right? And then you have to replace un by its value, which is calculated from the formula. You know that u1, what is u1 here? u1 is 100 for sure. So 100 plus n minus 1 into minus 3 less than 0. And then if I calculate this value, what I get is 100 minus 3n plus 3 is less than 0. And then we get minus 3n less than minus 103. Now one very important point here. I have to calculate n, but the coefficient of n is negative. So I have to divide both sides by a negative number. So if I divide by minus 3 on both sides, what will happen to my sign of inequality? My sign of inequality will change. Just for a reminder, if I divide both sides of an inequality or multiply both sides of an inequality by a negative number, the sign of inequality changes. So what I get here is that n is greater than 334 is to 1 by 3. Now my n, you know, it's a term, is the number of term, so it has to be an integer, right? So you think which integer is more than 34.333? Definitely it's 35. So what will you write? Right, so 35th is the first negative term in the given arithmetic sequence. And then you can calculate u35 also. What is u35? u35 is nothing but it's u1 plus 34d, and u1 is 100 and d is minus 3. So the value that you get is minus 2, and you can see it's a negative number. Okay, one more type of question which is usually asked is that how to check that a un or a general term or an nth term will represent an arithmetic sequence. So you may be asked, show that, I'm taking an example, show that un equal to 3n minus 7 represents or gives an arithmetic sequence, right? So if this is the question, how to do this question? Usually what students do is they start calculating u1, which is 3 minus 7 minus 4, u2 6 minus 7 minus 1, u3 2, and what they do is they say, oh, I can see now that minus 1 plus 4 is 3. It's actually u2 minus u1, and then they do u3 minus u2, which is 2 plus 1, that is 3, and they say, oh, 3 equal to 3, so this is an AP. No, that's not the right way. Why? Because you are given an expression in n, so we cannot take some particular values of n, some specific values of n, and show it's an arithmetic sequence. What we need to do? We need to calculate the difference of next term minus previous term using n only. So in that case you can calculate either un plus 1 minus un, or you can calculate un minus 1 also, or any next term minus previous term involving n, right? So in this case, suppose I calculate un plus 1. How to calculate un plus 1? I need to replace n by n plus 1. So what I get is this, and then next is un is 3n minus 7, right? So, and if I solve this, what I get is, let us see, 3n plus 3 minus 7 minus 3n plus 7, right? And these two get cancelled, 7 gets cancelled, and this is 3, which is a constant. And what will you write? You will write that because the difference of next minus previous for all n values is 3 is a constant, it does not involve any n, so the given un or the general term or the nth term represents an arithmetic